Hi there, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah with Jujube Crafts and More. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Today I'm doing a fairy tale themed project, and this is in open collaboration with Indiana Jones. She is an amazing DIYer and very entertaining, and Sandy Lumbermill DIY, also an amazing DIYer. So today is fairy tales, and I decided that I wanted to create a shadow box using the Hansel and Gretel characters. So to get started, I went into my design space and I created a shadow box. So I made this in a traditional shadow box way, although it isn't going into a shadow box. So I will show you here in just a minute what I'm going to be putting this piece into. But I've created the layers. So I've got the moon and then some trees, and then I've got the witch's house on a hill, and then Hansel and Gretel in the front. So I found this jar at the Dollar Tree, and when I saw it, I thought it screamed like fairy lantern or some sort of a lantern. And so when I thought about doing Hansel and Gretel and this shadow box idea, I was like, oh, I want to put it in that jar. I can do that. And so this is like a total experiment. I have never done anything like this before, but I think it turned out really great. So I am using some of this foam tape from the Dollar Tree, and it just so happened to fit on my border perfectly. Like, I didn't plan it that way, it just so happened that it did, which is really nice when things like that happen, because trying to cut like this tape into smaller strips is really hard. So anyhow, I'm just going to take a strip of this foam tape all the way around the perimeter of my squares here, and be very careful not to go over the lines, because you don't want that foam tape to be seen from the front. And the reason we're adding the foam tape is for when you add the light in the back of your shadow box, it creates dimension and the light shines differently. And if it was all flat, that light couldn't come through properly. So we create a little dimension using, some sort of a like foam or foam tape, or you could use cordboard. I've seen people use like xoxo. So just anything that will create a little bit of space in between your layers is what you're looking for. So I'm just going to continue adding the foam tape to all the pieces, and then I will carefully peel off the backing of the foam tape and then stack these layers on top of each other. So as I mentioned before, this is an open collaboration video, so be sure to check out my description box. I will link Indiana Jones's channel and also Sandy Lumbermill's channel and the entire playlist, so you can go check out all of the amazing creators and see what everyone else has done. I can guarantee there's going to be some amazing things. And then for this moon, I wanted to diffuse the moon a little bit so that the light shining through wasn't as stark. So I just put a piece of copy paper over the top of it. However, you can see that I cut my piece down and just used a small square. I would just use the same size square as your paper there, because in the end you can see my square. So if I had just made it the same size, you wouldn't have noticed the difference, but it's okay. I'm cool with it. So here I'm just going to tape off. I inserted that the shadow box. I'm going to call it a shadow box. It's not really a shadow box, but I put the shadow box inside the jar. So I had to kind of like bend it a little bit, and I wasn't sure if this was, I still wasn't sure if this was going to work out or not. Like, I'm just kind of winging it here. And so I kind of bent it up and put it in there. And then I knew I wanted to create like a window. So I am taping off like a window in the front of this jar. And I am going from just inside where the border of the shadow box shows. So that way it doesn't show when you're looking inside the jar. And then I'm going just below that little lip on the top and the bottom of the jar. And I'm just using blue painter's tape here. This was one that I bought from the Dollar Tree. So then I'm going to take out that piece, and I'm going to give this 3 coats of Waverly Chalk paint in the color ink. Now, I probably could have gotten away with 2 coats of paint, but because I didn't let it dry fully in between, I kind of messed it up a little bit and got some pooling on the paint and had to give it a 3rd coat. So my suggestion is to really just set it down, let it dry, take the time to really let it dry, and you'll probably only have to do 2 coats. And I tried to use my heat tool on this too, and it I think that may have caused part of the problem as well. So I don't know that using a heat tool on chalk paint is a good idea. Not sure. Maybe it's the glass, I don't know. So I wanted to decorate up the lid for the jar, and so I really didn't want to paint it, and I found this burlap ribbon in my stash. This is from the Dollar Tree, and I just cut a piece that will go all the way around the lid. And now I'm just going to trim off the wire on one side. So using my hot glue gun, I am just going to glue the very edge there, and I am going to line up that wired side to the bottom of the jar lid. Now I decided that I liked the way that the, so one side is, they're pretty much the same depth, like on both sides of this lid, but one side obviously has the threads so that it can be closed, and then the other side does not. And I decided that I wanted to be able to just kind of set my jar into this lid, and it fits perfectly. It's really cool how it fits perfectly. So that's what I'm doing. And then I just found this green ribbon in my stash. This is also from the Dollar Tree. And I am just kind of, the reason I picked it is because I kind of wanted to keep with, like, I don't know, like a forest theme. You know, like when I think of Hansel and Gretel, I think of like forest, of course. And so I kind of wanted to keep with that neutral browns and greens in any coloring that I did on this. Because obviously the paper is white, and there's no coloring in the shadow box part of it, but I did want to decorate the outside of the jar a little bit, so I'm just sticking with some neutral colors. So back to our jar, we're gonna take the painter's tape off. And of course, this is everyone's favorite part, right? The reveal of the crisp, clean lines. But it worked out perfectly. And then I'm just going to insert this back in, and because we used the foam tape on the in between layers, it kind of has a little bit of stickiness to it, so it does stick to the side of the jar, and it holds in place perfectly. So I didn't even have to use any extra glue or anything. So next I'm going to take these fairy lights, and I honestly could not tell you where I got them. I think they may have come from Walmart. They have a timer on them, so I'm pretty sure they weren't from the Dollar Tree. And they're a little bit longer than the ones that I usually get at the Dollar Tree. So I think that these came from Walmart. But anyways, they're just fairy lights. So I just put those in the back behind the shadow box part. And here I'll give you a quick look of how it looks. Sorry, it's upside down, but with the lights behind the picture. So then once I got that together, I noticed that it was kind of lacking underneath the shadow box because of that lip in the jar itself. I couldn't bring the shadow box down any further. So there was a spot, a little bit of space in between the lid and the bottom of the shadow box piece. So I decided that I was just going to add some mosses and some decorations inside here to make it a little more cohesive. So I just added some Spanish moss first, and then I'm going to add some reindeer moss. Both of these from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just using my hot glue gun. And I'm making sure that I'm leaving a space around the very edge for the jar to go back into the lid. So I'm creating a channel, basically. And then I'm just going to take some of these picks from the Dollar Tree. I got these last spring, and I'm just cutting off a couple of these little white flowers, and then I'll cut off a couple purple flowers, and then I'll just hot glue those into place. And then I realized that I still needed, it was not quite right. So I thought I'm going to hot glue a little bit of those reindeer moss at the very bottom of my shadow box. I don't really know what else to call that, the shadow box piece. Artwork? I'm not sure. So like I said, I'll just keep calling it a shadow box, even though it's not a shadow box. It's the decoration that goes in a shadow box. I don't know. But anyhow, what I'm doing is I'm just hot gluing a little bit of reindeer moss towards the bottom, and that way it meets up. I left it kind of long on the bottom there so that it will sit on top of the other moss, and it just makes it look a little more cohesive, like put together better. And this like fits in there so super tight. It really does fit in really tight after you get the ribbon in there and stuff. So, and then I was like, I want to put this battery pack in the bottom here. It's like a perfect spot, but it was a little too snug. So I am just taking my box knife and I am basically trimming off the threads that were inside the jar lid there. It's just plastic, so my box knife cut right through it, and I was able to get it trimmed down enough that battery pack fits in there now. So again, it's a pretty tight squeeze, but it does fit, and I couldn't be happier about it. So next I wanted to decorate the top of this. I thought it needed a little something extra. So again, I'm just taking some of this leftover Dollar Tree picks that I had gotten last year in the springtime. And then this is some boxwood from Walmart. And I'm just snuggling that all in with some hot glue. Just cutting off little pieces how I want. That's a nice thing about, you know, greeneries and florals and stuff, is you can just cut off what you want and place them where you like them. You don't have to use the pick all together. As a matter of fact, I probably very rarely use a pick as it is. I'm usually cutting them apart, trimming them down, and doing other things with them. So I just find it looks a little more natural when you just kind of place things. So yeah, just cutting little bits and pieces, little flowers, just different little elements. And these are all from the same pick, but I'm just cutting them and layering them differently. And I really like the muted look of this particular pick. And then I really like that pop of vibrant green in there as well with the purple. It just really pops on the black and looks really pretty. And of course, glue strings everywhere. And I didn't have my heat tool right there, so I couldn't heat them off. And here is a quick look at it illuminated after I was all done. So here are some good pictures of this all finished. I think it looks so good when it's illuminated, so pretty. And it's even really pretty when it's in the daylight. I just really, really love how this turned out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this project. And don't forget to give me a big thumbs up for this video. Also, if you like what you see, go ahead and check out some of my other videos, and then maybe hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you stick around. Have a happy, healthy, and blessed day. Talk to you next time. Bye!